Hey there, I'm Garth. I'm the Animation Tutor. I create a whole bunch of courses and mentorships that are specifically built for students to build their portfolio to get into their top choice animation schools. I've been helping young artists become animators for over 10 years now, and I've gotten over 100 students into colleges like Sheridan, Seneca, Capilano, RISD, SVA, CalArts, Gobelins, and the Animation Workshop in Denmark. I've taught students from all around the globe get into these incredible animation schools, and honestly, it's never hard to get students excited about animation because it's such an incredible medium. So check out my website to see all of the courses and mentorships that I offer, or book a meeting with me and I can kind of go through all the different learning resources that we have with you. Thanks for listening and enjoy the student interview. Getting your results back.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I feel like it didn't hit me for a while. Like I got my acceptance and I was like, that's cool. And I was like, this isn't real. It took me like a couple days for it to really sink in. And then I
Okay,
went to the open house on yesterday, I guess.
yeah,
And that really helped like put it in perspective. Like I'm actually going to Sheridan
yeah.
next semester. That's just crazy.
Yeah, yeah, that is wow, that is the most casual receive of acceptance I've heard so far, I think. Just oh
Oh.
neat.
I know,
That's
because I was expecting, I mean, obviously when I first got it, it was like, wow, oh my God,
yeah.
this is amazing. And then the next day I was like, hmm, I don't feel as happy as I thought I would. But
Huh.
I think it's just because it like settled in yet.
And this is your second time applying or third? I can't
Third
remember.
time,
Third. Okay.
third
So
time.
no shame in that. I mean, so many people it's the same or even more, honestly.
Yeah. Hmm.
But wow, it must feel great. Like just to know that
Yeah,
you've like, wow, I've done this twice now. And I remember your character was perfect last year. And I remember you were like, I'm gonna reuse the same character. I was like, oh, I hope you
I
can
did.
do it just as well. And then you got 15 out of 15 again. So,
Yeah.
well, it
I
worked
was so
out.
happy with that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, let's have a look. Um, yeah, and yet some I remember you were talking in the Shared and Hopeful thread about this, but some blunders that you're like, what? Like how like I kind of agree. Like your perspective and your personal work were the two that you were like, come
Yeah.
on. Like what did I yeah, how are you feeling about it now?
Right.
Have you talked to them
I
about it?
I remember like before results came out, I would guess what I would get on it.
Yeah.
And I remember being like, okay, I'm like pretty solid on my layouts and personal work. Like I think I could
Yeah.
kind of guarantee a 14 out of 15 on both of those.
Yeah.
So that's why I was so surprised that those were my lowest marks.
Yeah. Yeah, very, very strange. I don't know. I don't know. It does feel odd to me. It's wonderful that you did so well on your storyboard because this was a scary one for everyone and honestly, like probably one of the most randomly marked years, at least from my eyes, when I look at the storyboard. I mean, sometimes it totally makes sense, and then sometimes I'm like, yeah, it's kind of confusing. So it's wonderful
Yeah,
that you did well in that.
I know what you mean. Like I've seen some like scoring this year and in a lot of sections where I'm like, either it's super, super harsh or very generous.
Yeah,
Like I've
yeah,
seen like, full marked storyboards and I'm like, huh, I wonder why the profs like that so much. Not that they're
yeah,
bad,
yeah.
just what distinguishes like an 18 out
Mhm.
of 20 from a 20 out of 20. I have
Sure.
no idea.
Yeah. And it's funny because obviously all of those are good marks. Like even 17 is like, well, that's great. But it's just, I guess now everyone really needs to think about every single mark because of how, I mean, in the last several years, it's just climbed. Like the average acceptance rate is just kind of out of control now. So, well, let's have a look through. So you got one mark off in your figure drawing. Well, pretty standard. I mean, pretty much everyone needs to get one mark off it. I feel like it's just always like, oh, obligatory mark off figure drawing, just, standard procedure.
It's for fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember these. I remember looking at all these prior.
Mhm.
Love that foot. I still love that foot. Yes. Um, nice. Yes. Beautiful gestures, great sense of movement. And awesome pose. Wow. Very super dynamic. I'm still curious, like, where was that mark lost? Like, what did they see?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, I'm. I could maybe guess that like my first short pose is like the pose is kind of stiff. Like, I mean,
Hmm.
there is some movement there, but also you can't see the other arm. So I wonder if,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe that's part of it.
The head is wonderful
Um,
for a gesture though. Like you've got the structure of the head really solid, the chin, the ear, hair, like the arm connection's great. Like you get a sense of the scapula in there too. So is yeah, I mean we are missing the other arm. I remember I remember was talking about that. I'm like, could you just throw it in back there? But
and
obviously
I
anyone
was,
watching, we shouldn't do that. But
I don't do that, but I was gonna do that. And then I was
yeah,
like, it's kind of a
yeah,
lot of work to like make it look without like
yeah,
a reference, make it look natural.
totally.
So I was like, I think it's safe not to do it, but yeah.
I know, I agree. I always joke
Um,
about that, but I'm like, also in academic honesty and all that, we probably shouldn't be adjusting figure draw. I mean, I think one thing that a lot of people do is they tighten up the clarity of the pose a little bit. I think a lot of people do that,
right.
but to change things and add things, it's like, I don't know.
Right.
It's not great.
Yeah.
Not great. So,
Um,
but still
I'm
work.
pretty happy with the score. Obviously, like
Yeah.
it's pretty good
Hmm.
because last year, I mean, this was the score that got me rejected. I got a 6 out of 10, and
Wow. Your
um,
figure drawing.
it yeah, and I mean, it wasn't perfect by any means, but it
Yeah.
was definitely not a 6 out of 10.
Yeah. I
Um,
remember I was like,
that
that
was
is
the
way too harsh.
that was really harsh.
Yeah.
So I'm just happy. I've worked so hard on figure drawing
Yeah.
for many years, so it's
Hmm.
good to have a score on that.
Yeah. A nice affirming score. And then a perfect hand pose, Mark. That's wonderful. Well, this is a strangely low resolution file, but
Yeah, I think
still easy to see.
this isn't the file I submitted, but
Okay.
I have used these hands literally every time I've applied.
So for how for all three times? That's so
I
funny.
mean, it works.
Yeah. So you did well the first time. Um,
First time I got 9 out of 10. Second
yeah.
time full marks, and then third time full marks. So
So it
I
just
don't
it
know.
it ages well. It's like a good wine. You just got to leave it and
Yeah,
gradually the score will increase.
exactly.
Great. Awesome. Okay. Well, that's one of the kind of I mean, obviously for anyone watching, like they're not going to look at your previous work and like compare it to
Mhm.
that. It's every year that's fresh.
Yeah.
They see it, mark it, move on to the next. It's
Mhm.
like they don't really have time. So it does happen. But it is funny when it happens. Unless it's the other way and you get 15 out of 15 on your character one year and then it
Right.
goes down to like a 12. I saw that like maybe once
That's
or
what I was
twice.
worried about.
Yeah, and it,
Hmm.
it does that for sure scares me. But I don't know. This was such a safe character. I remember last year, like we spent so much time just going through every
Yeah.
little thing, and I was like, I don't think anything is inconsistent about this. And then I was 15 out of 15. I'm like, yeah, I knew it. I was so confident in this character, so that's really awesome. So 2 years now. There you go. And next is the animation. Yeah, another 15 out of 15. Really nice. That's fun. Very clever. Haven't didn't see anyone else do this kind of thing, so that's great. Feeling good about this one? I imagine you are with a mark like that.
Yeah, and honestly, it was probably the part of the portfolio I worked the least on. Like,
Yeah,
I think started finalizing it like a couple days before the due date. Like, I kind of just got it done in like 1 or 2 days.
sure,
Um, which I don't know. I think it just comes a bit easily to me or
sure.
easier than the rest of the portfolio. I've had a lot of experience with animation.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes,
so
you
yeah,
have,
this
of
was,
course. You've animated some characters, I think, maybe. We might see those
yeah,
later in the
I think
portfolio.
so.
Yeah, that's great. Cool. Um, storyboard. Storyboard. 17 out of 20, right?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I'm like fairly happy with this. I mean, storyboard is such like a make or break for your portfolio.
Does seem like it,
And
doesn't it?
last year I got a pretty bad score. I
Yeah.
do think that my
Those.
story is like pretty standard. Like,
Hmm.
I think like this is just my opinion, but they might have like taken off points because um of how standard the story is. Like, nothing, it's not super exciting or anything.
Hmm.
Like, I've seen a lot of storyboards this year that score really highly, and it's because they did something that was more unexpected and kind of
Sure.
more of a unique story.
Sure.
Um,
Interestingly, I've also seen a lot that scored really well that are like they made it's clever in how like they did it or what they thought of. Like the concept is unique, like you're saying, but also it doesn't not a lot actually happens. I think that's one thing that I think a lot of new applicants don't realize is that you don't have to have a big sequence. It doesn't have to be a long, like, it doesn't need to be a whole feature film. Like, you're just doing a small little situation. So, just like
mhm.
problem resolution and then the development of
Right.
that. Like, it really is, it doesn't need to be super complicated. But yeah, you're right. Cleverness maybe does count for something for sure. Just like,
Yeah. Mhm.
yeah. But I think a lot of it is
But
really the execution too. But yeah, what were you gonna say?
yeah, I think so too. I mean, last year my storyboard, I would say, was kind of a more unique
Yeah,
premise,
I
but
remember.
it scored really harshly. So
Yeah,
again, it's like I don't know.
yeah. I'm so curious. Like, I would love to take that story because I love that storyboard. There was like a whole horde of squirrels attacking. It was
Yeah.
the possum, I think, because he
Mhm.
it said don't feed the squirrels, and he was feeding the squirrels. I thought it was so clever, and I loved the like horde of squirrels coming at him. And I'm like, this is gonna do great, and then it didn't. And yeah, that was a real shock. Like, I still wonder like if you resubmitted that. Obviously, you wouldn't with that score, but if you just resubmitted it, if somebody different was marking it, maybe it would have done better. But
Yeah.
nonetheless,
Mhm.
here we are, 17 out of 20. Um,
Yeah.
great. And not again, you're not biting off too much here. I think that's really important to emphasize. It's like a nice, modest
Right.
amount. So yeah,
Yeah, it's like an easy kind of premise to understand and like
yeah,
so then I can like really get into the big part of the process, which is like camera angles and on
yeah.
model and thing like
Nice.
shots, which is what you spend the most time on,
Yeah,
honestly.
absolutely. Awesome. All right, layouts. So this was 13 or 14 or no, sorry. It was 12. Yeah, just shocking. I don't know. I one a part of me is like obviously there is a thing called inset cabinets, but did they think that you were trying to draw a bookshelf and then they saw that it was like right on the wall and they're like, she doesn't understand perspective. But obviously like there are absolutely houses with these kind of inset cabinets. So
Right.
I really hope that wasn't the thing. I don't really think so, but I'm kind of grasping at straws here for
Yeah.
what it could have been.
So my theory, which I'm not sure, but my theory is I think both of my layouts are really character focused. And
Mm,
actually,
yeah,
you brought this up to me when we were going over my layouts, and you were like, make sure it's not a character moment, and like, could you replace a lot of the like, look how much screen the
yeah,
characters are taking up. Like, if I had
that's
made them
true.
smaller, maybe I could have added more perspective elements.
Yeah.
Um, and it doesn't feel like perspective is the main point of it. It looks like a cute illustration.
That's true. That's true. Like especially your outdoor, like how much of the
Yeah.
screen is basically a character thing. It's almost like half. It feels like it with the
Hmm.
big foreground tree as well. Like it's quite a bit. Like it feels like the star of the show is your characters, which maybe is part of the thing. They're like, oh, we want the layout to be the star of the show. That's why sometimes I wonder if like the character should be minor or like just there to kind of suggest a little bit of that story, but not to like, yeah, steal the show in a way. So, yeah,
What I think.
definitely a cute
Yeah.
moment, but yeah, you could be right about that.
'Cause also, in like layouts, you can show character through prop design and like what you're
Yeah,
including in the foreground or like
sure.
background, so you can tell character that way. And I
Yeah.
don't think I had like a ton of that.
Hmm.
Do I think I deserved 3 points off? No, but
Yeah,
like I
agreed.
obviously I think that I have more to learn on layouts. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's also, I don't know. There's like a lot that I would change about this layout. Maybe
Sure.
I could have zoomed out more to show more of the room. It is pretty like, I don't know, close. Maybe it was the scale.
Sure.
Um, there's a lot of things that could have.
There's a tiny thing I'm just noticing here, like because your horizon line, I guess, is somewhere around. this brick, as we can see where they start to kind of like be parallel. But then we see quite a bit of the top of this gift over here. I mean, this isn't three mark worthy by any stretch, but probably we should see less of that top if that is the horizon line right there, I guess. But again, I'm getting kind of fussy
Yeah.
here. I really had to like look
Well,
at it to notice that. So I don't know.
right. I mean, one thing that did make my life a lot harder is I had both the vanishing points like either in the canvas or like right outside the canvas. And
Okay.
one of the rules is to like have it further apart, like that just kind of makes it easier.
Yeah, it's okay though. I mean, and it's not wrong. Like you can put those
Right.
vanishing points so close together. It's just gonna look like you're looking through a fisheye lens kind of perspective situation. But
Hmm.
I mean, some interiors really call for that. They like, in fact, some animation layouts I've seen really thrive when they have like very close vanishing points, but or horizon. Oh my God. Yeah, vanishing points was right. But it needs to work. It needs to be the right kind of thing. I think in this, I absolutely don't mind that at all. I can see what you mean. Sometimes you can make things feel wonky, but I think if you expanded the shot down further, then we would start seeing some wonkiness happen. But as it
Right.
is, I think the area that you've chosen to show is that's fine. But once you're in Sheridan, bring this to your layout teacher and see what he says.
Yeah.
Uh,
Hmm.
yeah. Another thing I was
Yeah.
thinking is just sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just like, I'd love to like get better at layouts. It's always
Sure.
something I struggle.
Yeah. We talked about this a little bit way back, but just a little bit more background develop like actual background because we've got like the foreground plane, those middle ground sort of mountains, and then the background. Like it starts to kind of drop off a little bit, especially like back here. It feels almost a bit like sped through a little bit, I guess. Like you could have finesse those mountains a little bit, or even added like further layers, so that there's not so much sky. Because without those characters, there would be a decent amount of sky. You could have even have put
Mhm.
some further back or something, but nonetheless, who cares? You're accepted. That's the funny thing when we're
Yeah.
going through this, right? It's like, if you could have, but also doesn't really matter. It's nice to
It's
be on
hard
the other
not
side of
to
this.
it's hard not to like linger on the scores,
Of
but
course.
just kind of like wipe your hands like I'm in like
Yeah.
oh well.
Yeah. Personal work was 13, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, so that's another weird one because I find this is just awesome. Like it's so fun. I love these characters. They're super dynamic. Um, yeah, very fun. And they've got some little story development here. Yeah, really nice. Yeah, this one in particular, like this is ready for a book cover right here. That's awesome. Really dynamic. Um, yeah, more
Yeah, I was
character
pretty
stuff.
surprised at this.
Yeah.
Um, it's one I had really tried like to make my uh I was aiming for a 15 out of 15 because the previous years I've gone 14 out of 15.
Okay.
Um,
Wow.
oh yeah, I'm not sure.
I mean, they're marking harsher this year. I've been
Yeah.
saying to everyone that like whatever, because a lot of people got the same score or worse. A lot of people dropped 10 points. And
Yeah, I
I
saw
say
that.
to everyone like, well, they're marking 10 points harder this year. So whatever you got this year, like add 10 and that's what you probably would have got last year. So that puts
Yeah,
you above
same.
100 for you. That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, this is awesome. Really great sculpture and nice to see the development. They usually like to see that. So again, I don't got some weird tech stuff going on over here. Not that that's going to be the thing that's marked harshly, but it looks squished, but nonetheless doesn't really make much of a difference.
I do wonder if maybe what brought my score down was the organization of um like in general all my pieces. I kind of
Sure.
just plopped all of it together and then like labeled things,
Sure.
but
You labeled it though. I mean,
like
that's great. I'm
I
really
can
glad that you did
label
that.
it.
Like it helps a lot. Huh.
Yeah. This
Yeah,
is another one that I might just like bring up to my professors and be like, how could I
sure.
improve this? Or
Yeah, totally.
I'm very curious
Hmm.
what they didn't like.
I love these birds. So fun. And in your sketchbook in particular, I think they really like when you play with medium. Like it's not
Mhm.
like they want you to have a huge range or a breadth of like medium choice, but having a little bit of variation, I think is super helpful.
And great. I love watercolor like panels in a sketchbook. It's just something about it. It just feels wonderful. Nice. Maybe some more structure in some of these characters, like just some, I don't know. That's a bit of a stiff leg right there. Um, but I know the deal, right? Like you're there in person, you have moments to capture that, and most of it is really from memory, let's be honest. Like they've moved by the time you're finishing it, so you're kind of just making it up from what you
Mhm.
remember. And it's hard. It's easy to look at like these drawings and it's like, yeah, like why couldn't you add more detail? But it's like, yeah, well, that's gone now. Like you're using your
Yeah.
memory for a lot of these kind of in-person stuff. So,
Yeah, I think that was actually like a thing I didn't realize until very far into like drawing from real life is
mm,
you're not supposed to draw like an exact picture of what you see. It's like you take it and then you kind of just draw
yeah,
it from what you know and you change things that you think would
sure.
make it look better. Like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, the
a lot
design
easier.
is ever present, right? The design isn't only with character design. Design is kind of you can design everything. You could take these cars and design. Well, you kind of did actually. You shrunk that one at the top, and some of the quality is a little. It seems these might have been scanned, maybe. Sometimes scanning can actually kill it. It's funny how that happens because we think like, oh, scanning will do the best job, but really depends on the artwork. These are a little bit blown out and a little bit pixelated or something, but the nice thing is we can still absolutely see it. So that's great. Oh, nice. Okay, some animation. Awesome. Oh, this is great. Hey, here it is.
Yep.
Awesome. So this is a project that Frida actually worked on for me, which is wonderful. Um, nice little first freelance gig, maybe. I don't know. Hey, oh yeah, that is a great scene too. The pea picking, yeah, or bean. Awesome. That's great. It's great that you also said that it was for a client. I think that's not it. I mean, a little bit of street cred doesn't help, doesn't hurt, does it?
Well, hopefully not.
Nice. Okay. Oh, no, that's everything. Wow. Okay. Awesome. Well, huge congrats, Frida. That's so great. Wonderful score. And so if you could do the whole thing over again, is there anything that you would do differently? I know that thinking of doing it over again for you probably is like, no, never again.
No, never again.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, I mean, I think applying 3 times, I had to think about that question every single time
I bet.
I
Yeah.
chose to apply again because it was
Mhm.
like, how can I do this better? How can I?
Sure.
And I think the big lesson I learned was working hard and working all the time is not necessarily the answer. I think especially when I like first time I applied, I was like, I just need to work as hard as humanly possible and then I'll get in.
Yeah.
And I think it's more like yeah, like work harder, not smarter. Like, wait, no, work
Work
smarter, not
smarter, not
harder.
harder. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, like really target things that you think you could work on. Like if you're struggling with figure drawing, don't just go to figure drawing class every week. Like study anatomy,
Yeah.
um, YouTube videos. I really liked like Proco and like I don't know, there's so many good like tutorials out there for gesture drawing.
Yeah.
Um,
There is.
and for like don't just draw what you're comfortable in. I did that a lot for
Hmm.
I still do that. Like it's just easy to do what you're good at because drawing what you're bad at is really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so if you're finding that like something is like, oh, I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to study landscapes right now. I don't want to go outside and like draw from life. Maybe that's because it's you're not comfortable in it yet and you have to
Yeah.
like really improve on that. And so like
Yeah.
kind of target this and you have it like
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great. I remember one thing that I did in figure drawing was I found gestures that I loved online and I literally printed them out. This is how old school it was. I'd print them out and I'd have them just kind of like around me as I did life drawing. Taped it to my board just to like have them there as stylistic references because I wanted to like
Mm.
emulate the kind of and like yeah, just the style and sort of
I
imagine the
think
approach that they took, and it really helped.
I actually did that too this year is I got someone on the Sheridan Discord sent me this like file they give first years of like perfect figure drawing and gesture drawing. And
Mm,
so I would just like, go through and see like what are the commonalities here that everyone's using and like
yeah,
what are they looking for in gestures. Um, and I would like reference them and compare it to my figure drawing, and that really helped me.
awesome. That's great. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Was there some advice that someone gave you that was critical?
Yeah, a lot of critical advice. I always look for people to critique like
Yeah,
all my work through this whole process. Like I've always known that I work best when I'm getting feedback, and I think that's
yeah.
for everybody.
Hmm.
So I mean, like I got critical advice from you with the layouts and like,
Hmm.
yeah, that helped me a lot. I also did a lot of like one-time portfolio reviews. And something that's interesting is I got like different critical advice for everyone I asked. Like,
Yeah,
and that's the difficult part for feedback and asking a lot of different people is like sometimes I'd show my animation to people and they were like, "Oh, you gotta improve on this," and like you have sliding here on the foot,
yeah,
and so you on this. But then in other portfolio reviews, I'd show the same animation. They were like, "Oh, it's perfect."
yeah,
Same goes for layout and the
totally.
storyboard.
Hmm.
So it's also a matter of like just like taking in all that information and then just like, okay, what do I actually agree with and
Sure.
what is like manageable? Because
Yeah,
I remember one person was like, you need to redo your outdoor layout. And I had like a week,
yeah.
maybe 2 weeks.
I remember that.
Um,
And then I saw you the next day, as far as I remember, and I was like, no, 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 don't need to redo, just need to like fix up some
yeah,
things. Um,
right. Like you work with what you have. Like never redo something if it's that close to the deadline.
yeah, and like, and you always can tinker. That's one thing that I keep in my mind, even though maybe there are more aspects, as we can see from the marking sheet, that could have been redone, but nonetheless, like there's always potential to rejig things, and especially if you layered your file nicely in Photoshop or Procreate or whatever, you can move things around. You can change the scale. You can pull the whole camera out. With some good file management, you can absolutely like rejig. Interiors and linear perspective is a little bit trickier. But in Photoshop, I can
Yeah,
still like distort things and change them, and I'd probably still redraw it to get the nice line. But you can really drastically change up aspects of your
right.
artwork, and yeah, that's if you really like to redo something, the idea itself needs to be like that basically. And I don't know. I usually don't find that's the case. I like working with where students are at. Honestly, that's just my general
Yeah.
philosophy, I guess. But
Yeah, like I would say if you're earlier in the process, like in November or October,
yeah,
it's worth starting over because I think that you should stay in the like thumbnailing phase or the idea phase
yeah,
for that's something I also learned this, especially this time applying.
yeah,
Um, don't just jump to the final like layout or final storyboard. Like
sure.
keep generating ideas and like don't settle on something, especially with
That's
storyboard. Like
great.
I was thumbnailing my storyboard for till January, I think.
Yeah,
Um, and then I started to actually like put it on the canvas and like then I go into the shots and stuff and
yeah,
then like
great.
character things and yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. That's also a thing in the profession in the biz is like thumbnails are cheap. Do lots of thumbnails. Like to change artwork that's finalized by a previous department or a different department, to have to change it, then you got to send it back to the storyboard department. It's like, no, no, no. Like if you're gonna spend more time, spend more money in the budget on something, do it as early as possible in the production, in the pre-production phase, so that you don't have to like, yeah, change up like final artwork. That's just like the most inefficient you could possibly get. Also good training though. So if you are very early on, you're just getting better at art, then like starting again is just good anyways to just kind of get used to that process of
Right.
like letting go, letting kill your darlings, as they say, like letting go of things and trying something else. That is can be helpful. Just the timing is critical. January and February, maybe not the time to do that anymore, but yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
maybe not.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've a lot of people somehow manage to do their portfolios like in 1 month and
Yeah.
they make it. So
Yeah. That's wild. I wouldn't imagine doing that anymore. That would be super risky. But do you feel like anything in
yeah.
your portfolio gave you an edge up on the competition?
Hmm. Um, I think that focusing on like story and well, I would say in my layouts, but obviously they didn't like my layouts. But something I tried to focus on is like
But you did
um
that well, though. You're right. No, your layouts do have a wonderful story, and you probably didn't lose any marks on like the story consideration of the image. So, yeah,
yeah. Yeah, exactly. So in the animation I wanted to show a story, but not too much of a story. Like I
yeah.
think should be focused on the action. But like obviously there's a target there and yeah, and
Mm,
the character rotation too. It's keeping in mind like is it a clear story? Can you tell what like what kind of film she would be in? Like for
yeah,
me, I can as her in a children's film or like TV show.
yeah,
Like there's
totally.
also a genre to the rotation. Like
Yeah,
I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, like
absolutely.
I hope that that gave me an edge on the competition is like showing that I actually want to work in animation and animation is storytelling. And I
Yeah,
tried to show that.
awesome. That's great. I love that because I think story is honestly the most important thing. I'm actually shocked that there's
Yeah.
not more marks for story in everything. Even like the
Mhm.
hands,
I
like you can tell a little story here. It's a
like,
small story. It's more of a situation, but nonetheless, still.
yeah.
Um, yeah. Sorry, were you gonna say one more thing?
Oh, well, for me, I think that storytelling is something that's more personal to
Sure.
like every app, sort of different. And you can kind of teach draftsmanship, and I think you can learn that in school. So if you don't have like perfect, especially like perfect score on your portfolio, like that almost doesn't matter because you have more like uniqueness and personality that they just don't really allow in this
Mhm.
portfolio because it's so I almost disagree with like Sheridan's like whole portfolio. I think there should be more like uniqueness and like so
Yeah.
you can actually show kind of like artists you are. I mean, you have the personal section, but just like focusing on adding any sort of uniqueness to all the requirements, I think
Yeah.
would really help me. I mean, I hope it would.
That is a wonderful idea, Frida. And honestly, I haven't thought of like putting it that overtly before, but you're right. It's like any way that we can make it less of just a technical exercise and more of like,
Yeah.
but show us who you are and show us your passion in this craft. Like, if there is any way that you can infuse that into the work, I think that's
Mhm.
good, but I think you're right. They should find ways to build that into the mark sheet itself. How cool would that be? I think that's a fantastic
Yeah.
idea that you can tell your teachers next year to do for future students, perhaps.
Yeah.
So last question, the fun one. So with unlimited resources and a huge staff at your disposal, what would be the animated production that you would make?
Oh my gosh. So many things. So
Yeah.
many things. Um, I think that I'd love to work on I'd love to work on an animated TV show, like be what is it? The head showrunner. That would be so fun. I
Sure.
have like so many different ideas. I mean, that's storytelling is what made me want to get into animation. So I
Yeah.
have like different stories floating around in my mind. But one of the first personal piece, I'd love to turn that one into a TV show format,
Yeah.
like inspired. I don't know if you know the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
Yeah, of course.
but yeah, I love that show, and I love like supernatural stuff and
Yeah.
uh yeah, just like teenage monster hunters,
Nice.
slaying monster
Cool.
comedy kind of esque kind of yeah.
Well,
I'd love
have
to.
that in your back pocket for well, third year even, or fourth year when you actually get to do your own film. But you never know. You might hold it with you for a long time. So you could always make it
Yeah.
later, and then that could be your pitch project that you could pitch to studios once you're graduated. It's funny because everyone thinks
Yeah,
of like I'm going to be a thing at a studio. I'm going to be a animator, storyboard artist, a layout artist, whatever. But it's like, yeah, but there's also people that need to make the things. They need to like have the pitch package ready. There's often like
very
pitch competitions and stuff at different studios. So, it's nice to have that on hand. Don't give up that dream. Absolutely. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm so excited for all the like films and stuff and working with everyone in Sheridan.
Yeah.
Yeah, just want to like skip to September. I'm like ready
Yeah.
to start school.
Yeah, awesome. I bet. And again, like third time applying, I'm not surprised that you're super pumped to get started. So, well, great work, Frida. You should have gotten last year. I remember I was super disappointed when Sheridan denied you last year, but at least here you are 1 year later and you're heading to Sheridan next year. So, just a huge congrats. Yeah, super proud of what you've been able to accomplish here. So, yeah,
Thank you.
thanks so much
Thank
for
you
doing
for
this.
all your help and like support for the past 2 years I've applied. It's been
Oh,
so great.
yeah, that's good to hear. Well, I look forward to the work that you make at Sheridan, Frida. Good luck and
Thank
have a
you.
good one.
Okay, bye.
See ya.